Welcome to Girl Dad, the podcast. I'm your host, Madeline Anderson, and I'm thrilled to bring you honest conversations with dads and daughters, sharing heartfelt stories, actionable advice, and real daughter perspectives that will help you be the best girl dad you can be. Lucas Ballasy, welcome to Girl Dad, the podcast.
Happy to be here.
Thank you so much for coming on. I'm excited to have you. I would love to just kick it off with you introducing yourself to the audience. Maybe tell us a little bit about your family, where you're from, and what you do.
Yeah, so I grew up where I live now, Bucks County, Pennsylvania. I lived in New York for about 10 years and then moved back home 4 years ago through the pandemic. I share that because I think, it's fascinating. I've been with my wife for 14 years now, married for 7. And we just thought we were like city people and we're living in New York, like working in design and doing all this stuff. And we're like, this is just how we're going to build our life. And then the pandemic happened and we are now near family, like in the suburbs, much slower. And it is amazing. It's like we did not realize, how much we would have missed by just being near family and raising your kids around that environment. So super, super grateful to be able to do what we do here, outside the city. I work at an agency. We work with CPG brands or consumer packaged goods brands across food, beverage, wellness, beauty, some home products to really help them create consistent digital experiences, across their website, email, that sort of thing. I've been with the company for 12 years now. So that's been like a pretty incredible journey building the business, being part of it. And also just going through many life stages with the same group of people has been pretty incredible. And then, I have a son. His name is Milo. He's 2.5 now. And, I'm here because I'm having a baby girl. Well, not because, but I happen to be having a baby girl like any minute now. I shouldn't say that. Like due on December 29th is December 18th. And super excited about that. And then we have a little dog, Gizmo, who we love. We rescued 4 years ago, who's behind me somewhere. That was definitely anyone out there who doesn't have a dog and is like thinking about having kids, definitely get the dog first. It's a great primer for having a kid, in my opinion. So
We are having this conversation, my husband and I, all the time because, we're talking about kids, talking about a dog, and I'm getting advice from both sides. Some people are saying, don't get a puppy yet if you're going to have a kid soon because it's like hectic to have both at once. And then some are saying, get it first, wait on the kid, do it as a practice. So, this is very top of mind in our household.
You can bring on like a board of advisors and have this conversation. I just think a little puppy is like, you have to house train them. You have to get up in the middle of the night. There's all these things that you have to do to like get them into a point where they're like integrated into your life. And we didn't realize like going through that, then having a kid, we were like, cool. Like we've been through some of these same stages, and then you get to bring this little baby home and the dog is like super excited and it's so fun and it's the cutest thing ever. So I just think integrating a dog later is kind of like, I got to take him out now,
Yeah.
I gotta get this kid's diapers changed, so.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And, if we agreed upon what dog we want, it might be a different story. Like we might already have one.
Yeah, okay.
But
There's
he's
really
like,
something else going on here.
yeah, there's something else. Like he wants a pit bull or like a big dog, and we both agree like we want no shedding or minimal shedding. And I want like the smallest chihuahua that that exists, and or like
highly recommend.
Yeah, I know. A little dog, just one that I can like curl up with or take on a walk, and then if I need to like hold it, I can. I just, it's actually it's his parents who have this amazing chihuahua named Mo, and he doesn't bark. If he has to go to the bathroom, he goes and rings a bell and sits and
we
waits.
have a bell too. Yep.
Okay, yeah. And he, if it's bedtime, they just say kennel, and it doesn't matter if he's like playing with his friend or like just has the most energy. He will stop what he's doing without barking or anything, and he will just go prance over to his little bed and jump in, and they'll zip him up for the night. And it's like,
that's amazing. Yeah,
amazing. Just the most well-trained dog. And
you get to bring him to like, we used to bring, his name's Gizmo, to Home Depot in the cart and like all. shopping, and people would be like so much joy to, especially like older folks who were just like, this just made my day. He is so
Yeah.
cute. And we're like, this is amazing. Like,
Yeah.
do some good for society by bringing your dog out there.
So
So yeah,
true.
I'm with you, Madeline, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, Mo made it to our wedding and everyone was, like, obsessed with him. I was like, "Hello, I'm the bride." No, I'm kidding, but he was just, like, prancing around, just so well behaved. Again, 0 barks and doesn't even
It's the
he
best.
doesn't bother with, like, eating food. Like, he'll just kind of nibble on his food every so often, so he's not if you're dropping something, he's not, like, running over and he's not begging or anything. So, just the best dog. I can't say enough good things about him, and so that's why I want a
I
version
love
of
that. Yeah.
him, you know? Um, but Max says that he wants a dog that'll protect me and that would not protect me. So I love that element, but yeah, maybe one day we'll
But
agree.
still, yeah.
Yeah. Uh, Okay, so you're not a first-time dad, you're a dad of a son. So you've, got some things under your belt already, but you've got your first daughter on the way. So
Mhm.
I would love to hear about, the first thoughts that kind of crossed your mind when you first found out you were having a girl and how you're preparing to transition from boy dad to, both dad and girl dad.
Yeah, I think, so it's funny because my dad always wanted girls, and then he got 3 boys. And so it's just funny because my older brother has a daughter, and now I'll have a daughter. Still crazy to say that. But yeah, what's interesting is my wife and I both swore we were going to have a girl the first time. So I was like mentally just like that's where my head was at. I think, I love the idea of like a mini version of my wife. It's just like this is the cutest thing, just like little
Oh.
bun up, like all this stuff. And then we got like little cupcakes, a cupcake with the gender, like the color, and then we cut it open and we were like, "Oh my God, we're having a boy." Like what? Like I had to like and everyone's going, "Oh, you must be so excited." And I'm like, "I just didn't even, I didn't even think about having a boy. I guess that's going to be cool too." Like just like so caught off guard. So it's funny, the second time around, I just kind of was like, whatever. Like, I don't know. Doesn't matter. There's pros and cons, I guess, if you could say to both, right? Like, I know what I'm doing with this little dude. No idea what I'll be doing with a little girl. Um, so just fun story. We had my sister-in-law in town with her kids, and we bought a bunch of cupcakes, and then one was with the gender inside and my little niece got it, which was like the cutest
Oh.
thing. She apparently had this dream that we were going to have a girl. Like she had, or my wife had a dream. She said it, like all this weird stuff, and then she ended up with the cupcake. It was crazy. Have it all on video. She was so excited, and we're like, it's so perfect because like totally random. And then I think like hearing it, you're just like super excited the whole moment, and then it's like, whoa, I'm gonna have a girl. Like, what? Like, it starts to and I think that's kind of been the, journey since is just kinda sitting with that and understanding, like, what does that actually mean? And I brought up my dad earlier because like, I didn't grow up with sisters, I don't it's all very, very new territory, and so, yeah, a lot of excitement, definitely a lot of curiosity, and, just grateful to have both. I think people will have like 2 girls and then 1 a boy, 2 boys and then 1 a girl, and then they end up having 3. We kinda wanted to have 2 kids, so we're like, "Cool, like, this is great," and now it's been a lot of just kinda sitting with that, and a big reason why I'm excited to be here is just, like, spending time with what this means and how this is gonna look very soon, so
Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the dream. I believe that dreams have magical
Mhm.
powers. Not all of them, of course. Like, I think a majority of them are just kinda downloads in your mind just relaxing while you rest and rejuvenate for the next day. But I actually had a super vivid dream semi recently, and it was the same thing. I had a dream that my friend told me she was pregnant,
Oh, wow.
and I woke up, yeah, and I'm glad I told my husband so that he could, like, vouch for me. I was like,
Yeah, yeah,
"I had a
100%.
dream that, so and so is pregnant." And then he's like, "Oh, like, that's interesting, right?" And then the next week, I went out to grab a drink with her, and she's like, "Oh, I'm actually not drinking." And I was like, "What?" And she
Wow,
told me
yeah.
and we did the math because I told her, oh my gosh, I had this dream. And she took the pregnancy test and found out the next day. So, like, I had the
Wow.
dream, and then she woke up and did the test, which is kind of, yeah, just crazy. So, um,
I am so my mom has had my mom, my dad, Dana, that's my wife, they've all had, like, dreams and visions of some
mhm,
crazy like that, and
yeah,
I'm with you,
yeah.
huge believer, and I'm remembering now, like, my wife had literally a dream that my niece Olivia got the cupcake, said it was a girl, like, the whole thing, and then it happened,
Oh
and it
my
was like
gosh.
she also told me, but I was kinda like, "Oh, cool," and then it happened, and we're like, "Wait, what?" Like, crazy.
Yeah,
Very
no,
cool.
it is so wild, and it's just one of those things that you can't explain, and sometimes, like, the best way to just explain it is that you can't, and that you just
No,
kind of
yeah.
surrender to, like, "You know what? This is just
There's
something that I
something
have
else,
to."
yeah, there's something else
Yes,
going on here between all of us, you know?
exactly,
It's like,
exactly.
yeah.
Oh, well, okay, so on that note of, introducing a girl to your family while you already have a son, are you doing anything in particular to kind of prepare your son or, get him ready to have a little sister? I know there's, some advice that other parents give about kind of introducing that second child, but would love to hear from your perspective how you're navigating that transition.
Yeah, we have a bunch of, like, Big Brother books, that we read with him, and, we just decided on the name. So this week we were like, actually yesterday, because I think it was Tuesday that we officially decided the name, and getting him to say it, which is the cutest thing, by the way.
Oh.
So there's a lot of that, and I think more recently as we've gotten closer, like I had some, heart to heart, as much as you can do that with a 2.5-year-old. But you get pretty serious and they'll like lock in, which is the
Mhm.
best. But just like, what are we gonna do when she comes home? She's gonna be crying. What are you gonna say? And so right now, if you ask him about it, he'll kind of be like, I'm gonna say it's okay and sing Twinkle Twinkle. Like that's what we're trying to kind of introduce him to, this idea that like someone else is coming and there's gonna be stuff going on. And that's what those books are about.
Mhm.
It's just like they're gonna be crying, they can't play yet. I think the good thing is he's been in preschool since like 6 months. So he's been around a lot of other kids. The dog, I don't know how much of an impact it'll have, but like there's 2 things that need care in our house,
Yeah.
that need to be taken care of. So we're just trying our best to like keep him open to the idea. He's a really good little guy and we don't know how he'll react, but he has been getting like a little clingy and we don't know if it's because like he's programming this or
Mm.
what. Um, but I think the cool thing is it's the holidays, so my in-laws will be in town. They would have been anyway, but like there's a lot of other stuff going on. So I'm hoping like it's kind of just like a celebration. There's, we're talking about Santa, there's all this stuff. He's getting gifts and like she comes home and um so yeah, doing like what we can. I haven't spent a lot of time digging into like how to prepare for that, to be honest. And not like me, but I kind of just like, hey, we're gonna just do our thing, see how it goes. I don't think there's any formula.
Definitely. And it sounds like you are doing all the right things too.
Yeah,
Even just
yeah.
preparing him for the chaos. I think that's a huge one, right? Because if you can set the expectations like, hey, when the baby comes, it's going to be a little hectic. There's going to be tears. It might be harder to sleep. We might have to be attending to the baby a little bit more, but
Mhm.
just kind of setting those expectations so it's not like she comes home and all of a sudden it's his whole life is disrupted, right?
Right, right.
And I think, one thing that I've heard is just really fostering that environment of teamwork and
Mm,
the family is a team, right? So
yeah, I
instead of
love
being
that.
like him versus her or whatever, it's like, hey, we're a team and we've got a new member of the team come in and we're so excited.
Mhm.
And then also, um, you kind of make it so that it seems like she is really excited for him too.
Mm.
And so I've heard parents giving gifts like from the baby. So
Oh,
like,
cute,
oh,
yeah.
your baby sister got you this, and he's like, oh,
That's a good
okay,
idea
yeah,
for Christmas this year, yeah. We've got plenty of
exactly.
gifts, so I'm like,
Exactly,
love
like,
that.
one can be from his little sister, and then he feels connected to her, and he feels appreciative of her, and then also just kind of almost, like, complimenting him from her eyes, so you say, like, she looks up to you so much. She
Mhm.
really values your advice and your protection. Like, you can kind of instill those, like, big brother natural roles in him, but you do it in a way that makes him feel like she really wants him there for that connection,
Yeah.
rather than like a competition. Because sometimes, when the second child comes, or even like the third child, there can be a lot of competition with the one older sibling, where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, this younger one coming in is taking away mom and dad from me. And then they have to, get kind of competitive about it.
Yeah. And I think, I'm glad you bring that up because one thing that has been, I didn't say, but has been on my mind is we're just like, how do we lift him up to feel like he's this, at 2.5, like they're getting there where they can think about this, like, cause he'll be like, good job, Milo, or like Milo did it. Like he knows like he's getting like, I did that. So
Yeah.
we are thinking about how do we, instead of making it a competition, also like, hey, help with things, like be that, like, you know
Hmm.
what you're doing, like you can help out with this and like be part of that team. I love the team mentality. That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. That actually kind of reminds me of the blog post that you wrote and shared with me before this. And you talked about parenting with the mindset of raising an adult. And that's kind of what you're saying now. It's like you're hyping him up. Like, he has this responsibility. Like, he can take care of his little sister, he can help with this and that. And
Mhm.
so, would love to hear more about just kind of your thoughts around that subject and why you wrote it, and what that means for you.
Yeah. So I can't take credit for the concept. I read Bryan Cranston's memoir, Life in Parts, which was awesome. I became a fan, probably like a lot of people, because of Breaking Bad. And so if you're into that, like if you read that, there's like really cool to hear about the inside of how that all happened. But he talks a lot about his upbringing, his relationship with his dad, really tough kind of childhood. And I find those stories fascinating because it's just to see people of that level still reflecting on challenges there and just how much of an impact it had. But he talks about raising his daughter like an adult. And what I took from that is really thinking about all of these kids that we are raising and having, they're going to go out into society someday, and they're going to be someone's partner, friend, they're going to be someone's manager, they're going to be a teammate at a company, whatever, or on a sports team, whatever it is. And you want to make sure that you're instilling those values and skills, or as early, I believe, like as early as possible to prepare them for what that's like. And so I love the mindset of raising your kid like an adult, because it forces you to not brush off things as like that's what kids do or that's what toddlers do and that's how they act, but really think about like what are the values that, for me, it's Dana and my wife, what are those things that we want to instill in them early on, um, that is going to make a difference later on in their lives. And you talk to any like vulnerable conversation with anyone, I feel like childhood comes up somewhere,
Mm, mhm.
for better or for worse. Like you cannot remove the impact, whether you realize it or not, that it has had on who you are today. So I think, it's not about skipping childhood or being like, oh, you have to be this way, but just thinking about like, hey, this kid is going to go out into the world and be an adult. So what are the things that we need to model now and, think about? Because that is important in their world at every stage of growth, right?
Definitely. And I'm sure as a father, that's easier to do with sons than daughters, because there's
Yeah.
this natural instinct for men in general, but especially fathers, to protect and to provide. And I feel like that protection really comes into play with daughters. And so I think there's this, balance between, okay, you want to protect her, but you also want to set her up for success in her
Right.
future. And that's kind of where what you're talking about comes into play, where it's like, you kind of have to treat her like an adult and really think about how these skills will translate when she's an adult. So when you want to protect her, it it looks a little bit different if you're protecting with the future in mind versus protecting
Mhm.
now, like making sure she's shelled and, and
Yeah.
shielded. Like that's not as much as that helps right now while she's maybe younger and like quote unquote weaker. As she grows up, you might be doing her a disservice if you're keeping her completely shielded from, I guess, reality. But, there's just,
Yeah.
I think to your point, there's just a lot of skills that could be taught by treating her like an adult. And maybe that's not the right way to say it. You're not necessarily treating her like an adult, but you're thinking about her adulthood as you're parenting her.
Right. It's like raising as an adult is, I think, the
Yes.
something like it,
Yes. Yeah.
it's that future looking piece. And it's interesting you say that because one thing, forget what parenting book I read before Milo was born, but they talk about the when you're raising a son and then have a daughter or vice versa, like don't get caught up in gender
Hmm.
because we have these natural bias or inclination to act a certain way. And so that, if anything, that's the one thing I keep reminding myself of is like, people, when Milo was little, I mean, he's still little, but like, people would be like, you are nuts with, like, I would hang him by one leg, throw him in the air, just like, and I'm not a bad parent. I'm like, I know I've got him.
Yeah.
But people are like, geez, like, but I'm like, it's great because he's going to be, and now he climbs everything. Like he's fearless and it is great
Hmm.
compared to other kids that we've met. Um, and so I keep reminding myself, like, with our baby girl, like, don't hesitate to do the same stuff,
Hmm.
because you can create what you're saying unintentionally because you're like, oh, it's a girl, like, don't want to roughhouse around, like, if she hits her head, it's like, but just do it, like, just do it. Um, and so, yeah, I love that mindset, and I think it easier said than done. We'll see.
Hmm.
I'm gonna try, but
Yeah.
it's on my mind quite a bit.
Well, and I think it's if it's natural to be a protector and a provider, you should never deny yourself from your,
Sure, sure.
like, that's what a father does, and that's a beautiful thing, and that's not what I'm saying at all. It's more just like I'm saying it must be harder as a father to
Right, right.
try to, you know what I mean? Because you
Yeah.
are feeling those feelings. But that's great. And there's actually, you mentioned the like rough and tumble kind of play. There's psychology behind why it's so important to get that from your dad. Like you need, like there's the skin to skin contact. There's all these different
Mhm.
things that babies need from their parents, but there's also specific benefits that come with that kind of play with dads, whether it's like tickling or
Cool.
tumbling or, like throwing them around or
Yeah,
whatever
there's a
it is
lot of
that you're
that,
doing.
yep.
Yeah. Like safely, of course, of
Yeah, yes,
course.
yeah.
Um, but like that kind of connection that comes from that is really, really healthy. And so yeah, absolutely continue to do that with your daughter. And you know what's safe and what's not. And that type of play is what is so healthy. And so just kind of continuing that for both genders, like you said, is really good for the baby. And also, I'm reading this book right now called The Anxious Generation. It's
Mm,
really fascinating. It's about Gen Z. Technically, that is what I am too. So it's very fascinating because I relate to everything it's saying. And I have two younger sisters that are also Gen Z. And so I think with them, they, got hit even harder if that's how I,
yeah, yeah,
it
sure.
is kind of like a negative thing. But yeah, I can see because they grew up even just a few years younger and their brain in those developmental stages were younger when technology was introduced at such a massive scale with
Yeah.
smartphones and iPads and everything. There's a real effect on the future generations. And so this is something that I cannot speak to fully because I'm not done with the book yet, but it is very interesting. I would highly recommend reading it. It's not like, I guess, I mean, it would be applicable now, but I'm guessing iPads and phones aren't really a major part of their life at the super early ages, right? That kind of comes
We
into play
hope
when
not,
they're
yeah, we
yeah,
hope not.
right,
I
right.
mean, it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I think
But
it's interesting. There's something there with, that I'm thinking about too that I learned pretty early on, which is like, you hear about, and I don't wanna oversimplify because I think that, you hear this thing from parents, other parents or people who will say like, "Oh, you got lucky. Milo's a great sleeper." it drives me nuts because I think what happens, and there's a level of community around this, which I love, but there's also this
Mhm.
thing where we're all humans and we're all very different and we all have different environments and different habits and all these things. And yet we look at, oh, you have a kid, I have a kid. They must be the same. And what I'm getting at is what I've learned is that there is so much you can do to create habits and routines. If you don't have them already, they're not going to happen. But if you
Mhm.
create this kind of environment where he's joining that and you're kind of teaching him how to be part of the household, like you
Mhm.
can create structure there. But within that, we did sleep training. And what I realized is when he's screaming in the middle of the night and you don't go in, you're actually holding back your own fears and discomfort. You tell yourself it's because you want to take care of them, but you actually it's like, especially my wife, it like physically hurts to listen to them screaming. It feels like
Mhm.
it is like the end of their world and they're really just like babies and very upset because they don't know what else to do. And so what was fascinating is like 4 months, around 4 months, my wife's like, we're moving him into his room. And I'm like freaked out. I'm like, what? Like, I'm like, what if he flips over? Like, I'm like so
Yeah.
scared. And that's exactly what you're saying. Even with the son, I'm just like so worried. She's like, dude, you're
Yeah.
fine. Like, just put him in there. And I'd get up in the middle of the night and like look in his crib and like make sure he's okay. But he was fine. And I was like, it just showed me that your own fears are what will hold your kids back ultimately.
Mhm.
And you think you're protecting them. You think you're doing these things, but it's actually like, at least my perspective is it's often about yourself. So like
Mhm.
throwing them around, it's like you're worried that you're going to drop them and be responsible because you dropped them, right? Like they're going to get hurt. But actually, like, let them go through that. Like the other day, Milo ran at me, he missed me, fell, smacked his head. I felt so bad about it, but I'm like, this is being a kid, like we're playing. And so
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's like it's really interesting you say that, especially about raising a girl, because I think there is going to be that tendency. I always think about like the stereotypical dad scaring off boyfriends or, whatever. But like it is going to be, I felt that with my son. And I'm like, it is something I'm constantly learning. It's just like, don't let my fears or desire to
Mhm.
protect be something that gets in the way of them becoming independent and like navigating the world at 1, 2, 3 years old. Because there is a lot to navigate and they have to be prepared to be able to do that. So anyway, bit of a tangent, but definitely passionate about that concept and like trying to every age is a new level of it.
Mhm.
So it's like practicing it each time, every day. What does that look like at each stage?
Yeah, and actually I was thinking as you were saying that never stops. Like even when they're
No.
teenagers or when they're in high school, that kind of desire to hold them back because of your own fears does hold them back,
Hmm.
And so, my parents gave my sisters and I a lot of freedom when it was deserved. And we had number one rule was just no lying. So there was complete trust in our family. And they had the call me no matter what policy. It's like, doesn't matter where you are, what
Love that.
happens, like
Yep.
you call me and we'll come pick you up or we'll save the day or whatever it is,
Hmm.
and then if we need to talk later, we can talk later, but in that moment, your safety is all that matters, and we never really had to use that because we had that kind of trust and you never because of that, I think you just didn't wanna let your parents down also.
Yeah, yeah. We have friends that are an older couple. Their kids are one is leaving college, or one is going into college, one is in college, and the younger one just went on a backpack trip solo for like 10 days alone
Oh
in the
my
mountains
gosh.
somewhere, and like no phone. And the parents are like, "Yeah, it's crazy. Like she's good." And I'm just like, "That is insane. That is amazing."
Yeah.
And so it's like, how do you get to that point where you're cool with that? Like you've built that much trust in your kid. You know they've got it. You know they're going to make the right decisions. I just finished a book called The Intentional Father.
Mhm.
There's a lot of like religious undertones that I didn't expect. Not even undertones; they're in there. But it's a great book, just for anybody who might pick it up.
Mhm.
but he talks about, and it's really about a son and father, but they talk about daughters as well as kind of where things apply.
Mhm.
But they talk about the moment that they leave the house to go to college and what you want them to be prepared with. And it's like very emotional stuff. I mean, it's like, what do they want to think about you? Like, what values do they hold? And like, I think um, it puts a lot into perspective because that will happen
Mhm.
for most people. Um, like that moment where your kid leaves the house and it's like working backwards from that and thinking about what can you do to prepare them, but prepare yourself as well because it will come.
Mhm.
Right. And so it's like, how do you prepare them to go out into the world and be their person? And you're going to be there, of course, but like to your point, I mean, all of these steps are taking you to that moment. So
Mhm.
yeah, I thought that was fascinating. And there's like a whole exercise that you go through um, to kind of think about what those things are and like start there of how you raise your kid to get to that point.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it pays dividends later. Like, I'm 28. My sister, the middle sister, is 26, and the youngest one is 21. And not only are we three best friends, it just came up this past weekend, and we all went out together, and it was so fun. And everyone was like, "Wait, are you guys actually sisters?" We're like, "Yeah." And they're
It's
like, "We don't
awesome.
believe you." But the reason they didn't believe it is because we were having so much fun together
That's
that
awesome.
they just couldn't believe that, yeah, that we would actually be hanging out the way we were. So,
Yeah, that's like what every parent
um
wants. It's amazing.
yes, so there's that, but then also, like, our parents are friends too. Like, we, um, all hang out as a family all the time, and we golf together, and we do ski trips, and we just go to dinner together and spend time together and, love each other's presence, and I think it's because, during those critical stages, our parents were really intentional about how they raised us, and like you said, it was I think raising us like adults
Mhm,
and allowing us certain freedoms and just certain responsibilities even, and acknowledging when we do things right and praising us in the right ways, and it just made us feel like we yeah, we had trust, I think is the
mhm.
main, like, word that
Trust
comes
is
to
it,
mind.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So yeah, I think all of those things that we're kind of talking about now that are happening at this stage in life when they're super young, it just kind of continues to grow, and the intentions behind what you're doing and why you're doing it to set them up for success in the future stays the same, but it looks a little bit different in each stage. And
Yeah.
so I'm sure you'll get to experience that in all the stages, which is exciting. But right now, you gotta focus on just baby girl
Yeah, yeah.
coming into the world.
Yeah, all that comes with that, yep.
Yes, definitely. One thing that I do love to ask about on this podcast is work-life balance because I think, a lot of the dads listening are very busy dads and have a lot going on and want to be really intentional fathers. And so, how are you thinking about work-life balance and raising now 2 children, momentarily, and how that balance is going to take place?
Yeah, I think, my perspective on this has evolved so much over the years. I would say one thing that gets lost to maybe, like, younger folk like, that gets caught up, I think, with people who are coming out of college or maybe they didn't go to college and they're just starting their career, whatever it is, like, I do think early on, it's important to put in whatever you can to build your career, and, like, it can totally be out of balance. Like, I worked late, I was trying to figure out when I first joined this company, Barrel, like, I remember coming home and, like, working late, just trying to figure it out, and I don't regret any of it because there's nothing else going on. It's like, I got nothing else. It's like me and my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, like, you're just living your life and, like, you work late nights, you figure it out. As I've gotten older, though, and I started taking on more leadership responsibilities, I think the challenge was you start to think that work is everything and people need you,
Hmm.
and that you have to be there. Like, you have to be doing all of these things. And what really woke me up, there's like a few specific instances that I think prepared me to where I am today, which is like deaths in the family, just like scary, like unfortunate events that happen in your life that force you to just say, I gotta go. Like,
Mhm.
I can't be here. Gotta go. And when you do, you realize that things move on. People jump in. Like nothing,
Mhm.
like it's all good. People are like, good, get out of here. Like, we'll figure it
Mhm.
out. And I feel very grateful to have learned that pretty early because I constantly go back to that because working late or spending all weekend working, it's like, well, what if you just literally could not? Like, you just can't. You got sick, like you just can't. Then you figure it out, right? And so I
Mhm.
constantly try to go to that place of like, I just can't work late. I just can't work over the weekend. No one's perfect. And I do think work life balance is like the term gets the wrong image in the sense that like even as parents, even at like there's stuff like my wife works as well. Things pop up, she needs to work that night. Like, okay, we just got like don't fight against
Mhm.
it. You gotta do what you gotta do. We'll figure it out. So we try to balance it in that way. But I would say for me, it's like being done at 5 o'clock, not working on the weekends. I have my me time. I get up at like 5-ish every day, work out, journal, read. I do these, the same thing every day so that I'm ready to like make breakfast around 7:30 and like get everybody, you know, fed and everything before we take Milo to school. And so for me, it's like creating that routine that makes space for your time, but then leaves the rest for whatever kind of comes of the day. And then just like better managing the time that you have at work to get the things done that you need to get done. Um,
Mhm.
so, uh, you know, it's not perfect at all. And like I said, right now it's a crazy time wrapping up the year. There's things that pop up. I got to answer them. But generally, I think what's been really helpful for me is create that routine. And then I'm thinking about, well, when baby girl comes, at least I have a base to adjust, which to me is how I've learned to think about it is like, if
Mhm.
you didn't read before you had a kid and then you're like, yeah, I want to read more, good luck. Like, it's going to be very difficult. But if you have a practice and you have a routine and habits now, and then a kid enters or two kids enter, it's easier to be like, cool, like, let me adjust what I need to do in my day. Do I need to work out at night? Do I need to, like, you can flip things around and restructure. And so that's how I try to think about it and just really prepared for whatever comes out of this, when she arrives is just like, what do I need to modify and evolve, um, when we experience what it's like to have two kids.
Yeah. No, I think that's great, and I totally agree that the word work-life balance, I think there's just, the visual of it is off, right? Whenever I think of balance, I think of, like, a teeter-totter, and if you
Right.
have, like, work and life and you're thinking about, "Oh, is it the time spent on each?" It's impossible to
Yeah.
balance both, and so I like bringing this up because I think it's really healthy to think about and give yourself grace because if you
Yeah.
think about it like that, it almost feels like nobody has balance, right? And so the balance that I would love to see all the dads out there having is just goals and drive in both work and life and
Yes. Yes.
feeling like you're
So good.
checking
Yeah.
them off, like feeling like I feel good about work and I feel good about life. And whether that means, and when I say life, it's obviously like family time, all these things. But if it means spending 10 hours a day on work and the rest with your family and you feel really good about what you're doing at work and you feel passionate about it, then that's great. It's
Yeah.
it's not, and if you only have a little bit of time to spend with your family, but you have no distractions and you're sitting down at the dinner table and you're having authentic, great conversations and you feel close with your family, then you're good, right? And for some
Yeah.
dads, it's like it's just different for
I think
everybody.
like what you're also saying is it's what I keep thinking about like as I get older because it all starts to become very real. But it's like, what is this? Like, what is a rich life that you want to live? And I think
Mhm.
it's very easy, especially for men, to get that career to be like become the thing you want to provide. You want to like, it's just anybody could say what any ever they want, but just like human nature, that's just the way that we even back to the
Mhm.
caveman times, right? It's like we want to provide, we want to create this space, and I think that career becomes part of that. But ultimately, like you read these books, memoirs, things of people, very successful people who the biggest regrets are like all these things they missed in their life, which is their family or their health, like they got really sick. And so for me, I'm learning to continue to look elsewhere and find those other goals and milestones, whether they be
Mhm.
family focused or like, ran a marathon last year, half marathon this year, a high rocks. Like I sign up for these endurance event things to just be
Mhm.
like, cool, I've got to do this outside of work and find time for it, outside of family. But then also within the family, like, is it that you want to go on a trip? If you want to, and as Milo gets older, I'm like, what are the things that we want to do with him and then with her that you then prioritize? And it's like, this is what life is. Cause I get very worried about that feeling of waking up one day and being like, what just happened?
Mhm.
And it's all about work. Because I think what is, you brought up Gen Z and the book that you're reading, we're in such a distracted time that it's really easy to
Yes.
be like present and not actually be present. So that's another
Mhm.
thing. Is like it doesn't just mean that you're not working, but are you working in your head? Are you like still answering the emails in your head? Like,
Mhm.
are you there? And so I think there's a lot there of just like building these other aspects of life that keep you focused and tuned in that you can really be there elsewhere. And I'm not saying I'm perfect at this, but at least these are things that I tried to get to, every day.
Yeah, I mean, and I think thinking about it is a great start too. Like you're this is clearly on your mind, which is important because life goes by fast and or the days go by fast. And if you don't have these goals set or if it's not on your mind, then it's easy to get caught up with work, right? And just kind of let things go, oh, we'll do that next week as a family. But if you sit down with yourself and you think, okay, 10 years from now, what do I want my family dynamic to look like? What do I want to
Mhm.
have accomplished? And maybe that's a really long time period. So maybe even 1 year from now, 5 years from now. And if you decide that, you have a high value on family trips, then you need to start working backwards and integrating those into your
Yep.
schedule. And if you have a high value on Sunday brunches, every morning or every Sunday morning, you guys are going to do fun pancakes together, whatever, as a family, then you got to integrate that into your schedule. But I think I'm just a really big fan of goal setting and
Mhm.
planning because I think if you don't, and it kind of goes into that, what you mentioned earlier about just having routines in place. Like if you don't have those routines and if you don't plan ahead, then
Yeah.
it's just really easy for things to like come up and get distracted. And like you said, we're in this distracted world. And so it's just, life can go by and then that's when you start having those regrets. But if you can be deliberate about everything with work and with life, then I think you can achieve that quote unquote balance in your own way.
Right. And I couple things that I started writing this newsletter about 5.5 years ago now, every Monday, and it's like reflecting on one thing in the week. It's totally personal. It's about running the agency, personal things, like hard times that you're forced to write about it, and putting it out there has been amazing. I get feedback all the time of just people reading old posts and stuff. But what it does is so you said goals, and I think actually for me, I love setting those goals for all of these things, but thinking about the right habits that will compound to those things. So
Mhm.
writing a newsletter is like forcing me to think and reflect on things weekly. I also am a nut, so maybe we can bond on this outside of this, but I like track all of my habits every day. And then I write an annual report every year of like the highlights of the year, like how I've progressed based on the habits that I've done. And then I recalibrate the habits for the next year. But
I
what's
love
fascinating
it.
about all of that is like looking at actual behavior every day that is like, and those habits could be anything. Like it
Mhm.
could be, did I play with Milo today? And people might be like, oh, that's pathetic. But it's like, no, like reminding yourself each day. And that isn't one right now, but I'm just saying, like, you could track that and then say, hey, when I look back at the year, what did this actually look like? Right?
Mhm.
Like, how many days did I actually say that I did this? And then am I getting these results that I think I want and that I want to create? And I think part of that is like taking that time to celebrate the wins and like what you have done. Because when you write an annual report, like for me, I've been like, you're going through your photo. It's like kind of annoying. It
Mhm.
takes a long time to do this, but like you're going through your camera roll. You're like, where did we travel this year? Like, what did I accomplish? What did we do? And you're like, whoa, this was awesome. Like, this
Mhm.
was so much fun. And like, let me think about this versus just the days go by and you're like, that trip was amazing. But then like 3 days later, you're back at work, you forgot about it. Right. It's like,
Yeah.
you've moved on. So I love that. And I think it's something that I'm like, the discipline of keeping up with that stuff as life continues to get more complicated is like just reminding myself of like the unseen importance of like spending that time with these
Mhm.
things is just going to continue to compound. So I'm totally with you. And those have been like fun activities to just like force it into my life.
Absolutely. I love that. I'm gonna have to start writing down everything I'm doing. I'm already, like, tracking, in some ways,
I
but
had a feeling, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I
It's
know,
cool. It's crazy. You're like, it's
it
like, oh, how
is.
many books did I read? And then it's like, how
Yeah.
many days did I read?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
crazy. Like, it's like, how many days did I actually read? And then it's like, how many books did I read? It's like just a different way to look at everything.
Yeah, and I think celebrating is important because when you look back on how many days you read, I mean, it might be close to 365, which is amazing.
Yeah,
Even if
exactly.
it's like even if you didn't hit your book goal or, you did, but the number isn't as impressive as like, "Hey, I actually did what I wanted to do. I read
It's
every
made
day
space.
almost,"
Yeah, made space. Yeah,
Yeah,
and then you
which
get
is
excited, like, because you're like, oh, I'm on track of depending on what you use, but it's like, oh, I've done this for 11 days. Like, just
yeah,
keep going. Like, I gotta find time
yeah,
tomorrow. Like it builds
exactly.
that momentum. So yeah, totally.
I love it. Well, we are coming up on time here, so would love for you to just close out by giving one final piece of advice for any dads out there who are listening, particularly the ones who just found out they're having a girl or are welcoming a girl to the family.
Yeah, I would say one is so hard, but I think one thing I've been more and more getting exposed to, I started a men's group recently, is just like the amount of things that guys tend to carry and not share. And I bring this up in the context of finding out you have a girl is just like staying curious and being vulnerable as a dad. I don't know yet, but I think will be something that just like opens you up to connecting with your kids in general, but especially a girl who you're not going to fully understand. Like, you may not understand your son either, but there's more that just out of the gate you're going to be able to connect on. And so I think, just in general, when you share and you're open, people tend to give that back to you. So I think for me, that's just been something that I'm like, how do I, you want to protect and you want to build a foundation, but doesn't mean like shut down and like try to act like everything's normal or not share where like challenges are, and just be open about it. And then hopefully that, gets the same out of your kids. So you're not going to be able to do that necessarily day one, but just like keeping that mentality as you raise your daughter, I think will be important. But we'll see. Check back in 18 years. And I'll,
Well, we'll have to have you back on the podcast. Um, but I love that. I think that's a really hot topic right now in fatherhood too. So, I appreciate you sharing that, and I think we're gonna start to see more and more studies around vulnerability and especially with the father-daughter relationship. So, yeah. Well,
cool.
thank you, Lucas. I so
Yeah. Thanks so
appreciate
much
you
for
coming
having me.
on. This has been an amazing episode.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into Girl Dad the podcast. If you found today's conversation helpful, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow girl dad. I read every review and truly take your words to heart. To close out, remember, your intentional moments make lasting legacies. See you next week.